Well, welcome everybody to our Future Proof Your Retirement free monthly webinar, where we will be talking about going over some critical details on midlife planning for late life success. While you will meet us all during the presentation, I did want to make a quick introduction to the Future Proof team. We consist of Alicia Mack, a senior living advisor with Oasis Senior Advisors, Joy McMurtry, who's a certified financial educator, and my name is Jackie Walter. I'm a health and Medicare insurance broker with Translating Insurance. And today our guest speaker is Sandy Messer, a VA accredited claims agent with long-term assurance. As a resource group, our primary purpose is to focus on educating people so they are prepared for a successful and crisis-proof retirement and late life. While you just met the founders, every month we will have guest speakers adding value to our free webinar, including speakers on estate planning, forever home planning, supplemental insurances, and tax planning. Our vision is to bring up those questions that you wouldn't think to ask so we can help you prepare before it's too late. It's always better to have a plan before you are in crisis mode. And our first presenter today is the lovely Joy McMurtry.
Thank you, Jackie. I always appreciate your introductions. And today we're going to be talking about the importance of personalizing your plan and making sure that you have a plan as unique as you. But first off, I wanted to thank all of the veterans and their families who are viewing this webinar for their service. As a daughter, granddaughter, and sister of veterans, I cannot say enough how much I appreciate what you've done. For most people, including veterans, there's this sort of one size fits all approach. You know, the pretty generic Toyota Camry sort of, and an example of this would be like having stocks and bonds is a great idea. They use rules of thumb, take financial classes, follow financial gurus on YouTube or Instagram, but are they really getting where they want to go? Not really. Less than 10% of people actually achieve financial independence when they're trying to go it alone or trying to just follow generic advice. And a great idea does not always equal what your family needs. On the other hand, people getting personalized advice are doing better with their investments and are more likely to achieve financial independence and be prepared for financial crisis. The military does a pretty good job of providing resources and classes, but most active duty personnel and veterans do not take the time to put together a personalized plan, or they fail to implement it. Here are some questions that might not be covered by the classes or materials that are being provided. You know, what do you see yourself doing after your service or when you retire? What are other goals your family has that also involve money? Traveling, charity, paying for grandkids' education? What would you say are important values for your family and why are those important? And is long-term care a concern? These are the 7 money milestones that my firm uses to walk each family through the process of reaching their goals and dreams. Each step is essential to tackle, or there will come a point where it will tackle you. Let's talk about some common misconceptions about military benefits. One that I've frequently heard recently is you should complain all you can during service so you can get disability when your term of service is up. And a lot of people don't realize that there's sort of an Achilles heel to this idea. Even 10% disability can disqualify you from any private long-term care policy that you might need in the future. Is it worth it to get that 10% disability instead of getting the long-term care policy? Probably not. Also, if I stay in for 20 years, I can retire and never work again. A lot of people, when they think about this, aren't realizing how much their income is going to change pre and post retirement. Most people just can't live on 50% of their base pay, which is not tax-free. Another misconception. They don't always account also for living without a housing allowance, which is really a valuable thing to have. Someone could go from over $7,000 a month while in the military to just $2,100 a month afterwards without a housing allowance, being at 50% and having to pay taxes on that. Only VA disability payments are tax-free. The military will take care of my family if something happens to me. There is a lot that the military does for families, especially if someone dies in the line of duty. Veterans who retire or after they get out of the military often wait until right before they purchase their own life insurance, however. And by then it could be a lot more expensive, or they just might not be eligible anymore. There's also a new blended retirement plan that's coming out that requires much more personal planning on the part of the participant. The new plan includes a 401k, sort of like how some of the state retirement systems are doing a blended plan now, and decreases the retirement benefit to only 40% of your base pay. Will younger veterans know how much they need to save in their 401k to make up for that lost 10%? Our last one is, I have our financial plan figured out. My wife doesn't need to worry about it. With how much spouses take care of while people are on deployment, they really need to have the entire plan for both of you, and also to make sure that both understand and also are implementing the plan. Military families experience a higher than average divorce rate, and financial disagreements, though, are still the top cited reason for divorce in the military as well as in civilian life. A lot of this comes from just not being on the same page. She's spending money that he had intended for another reason. They just need to be communicating the whole time and make sure that you're both implementing the plan. Take action today. You have the opportunity to have some great opportunities when it comes to working with me and my team. We are free to meet with us. We never charge for advice, and we want top level strategies to be available to everyday people. You also get the benefit of a large team of specialists. We have experts in life and long-term care insurance, retirement, investments, estate planning, and college planning on our team to help each family build their customized plan. And now I'll pass it on to Jackie Walter.
Thank you, Joy. Such valuable information there. And as a reminder, please jot down any questions that you have for the end, as we will be having time for a Q&A. So my name is Jackie Walter, and I am a health and Medicare insurance advisor with Translating Insurance. And I understand insurance can sometimes feel like a foreign language, and I want to help take the confusion out of health insurance solutions, both before and after retirement. We have access to so much valuable information on the internet these days, including insurance plan information, plan pricing, etc. But when you DIY your health insurance, you're not only forced to pour through 40+ plan details and spend hours and hours of your time researching, you also have the uncertainty of wondering, did I find the right answers on the internet? Or was the advice I got from my neighbor correct? And then you start to second guess yourself, and eventually you're going to regret not reaching out to an expert in the field. An advisor can save you countless hours and help narrow down options in around 15 minutes. When people are approaching retirement, there is a lot of common questions. And then when it comes to having access to veterans benefits, CHAMP VA, or TRICARE for Life, not only are you forced to learn about Medicare, but you also have to learn, how does Medicare work with my VA benefit? So, common questions: what is Medicare? Do I have to enroll? What if I work past the age of 65? What if I'm eligible for other coverage like TRICARE for Life, CHAMP VA, or VA benefits? So as a broker, I help people understand and navigate the insurance solutions for free, so you don't have to DIY. So a lot of people think when they retire and go on Medicare that it's going to be free and it will cover everything. Unfortunately, this is simply not true. While Medicare is a federally funded health insurance program for people ages 65 and older, or those with a qualified disability, it is not free. That's right. Medicare has monthly premiums, as well as co-pays, deductibles, co-insurance, And there's quite a lot of things that original Medicare doesn't cover, like dental, vision, hearing, and naturopathic care. Medicare also does not cover long-term care. So it's really important that you take Joy's advice and come up with a long-term care solution when you're in your 50s so that you don't get priced out of that option later. Buying it in your 60s or your 70s can be cost prohibitive, but Sandy has some great tips in just a few minutes for veterans needing long-term care solutions. Another surprising fact is that original Medicare does not have a max out of pocket. That's right. You have unlimited financial exposure on original Medicare, which is why it's my job to help fill the gaps that Medicare leaves behind so we can mitigate your financial risk and help protect your retirement savings. A lot of people confuse Medicare with Medicaid, but they are two completely different things. They both help with your health insurance out-of-pocket costs, but Medicaid is generally state-provided insurance that you qualify for based on income. So it's meant for low-income individuals who simply can't afford premiums, copays, and coinsurance. It is possible to have Medicare and Medicaid at the same time if you're a low-income senior. In this case, there are some additional benefits that Medicare provides, so it's always great to talk to a broker to make sure you're getting all the benefits that you're entitled to. Often, if someone has veteran health benefits, they think they can delay or skip enrollment in Medicare Part B. That's the one you have to pay for. But the problem with this is that VA funding is limited, and there's no guarantee that Congress will continue to provide funding for VA healthcare for all veterans. If you delay enrollment in Part B, you could face a late enrollment penalty later when you go to enroll. And you may not be able to get Part B back until the next general enrollment period in January, which means you could end up being without health care. VA health benefits are also limited to use in VA facilities. Medicare gives you access to a much wider variety of providers, facilities, and services, so it's wise to have both, so you aren't limited in your care options. TRICARE for Life is a little different. TRICARE for Life requires that you enroll in Medicare Part A and B once you are eligible. Medicare will be your primary payer, and TRICARE pays second. So generally, you would have no out-of-pocket expenses for services that are covered by both Medicare and TRICARE. But if it isn't covered by both, you may have some out-of-pocket expenses. You'll need to see providers that accept Medicare, and most of the time, the providers will bill TRICARE on your behalf. When it comes to CHAMP VA, they also require you to enroll in Medicare when you become eligible if you turn 65 on or after June 5th of 2001. Medicare would be primary payer and CHAMP VA becomes second payer. If you delay enrollment in Medicare Part B, you could face a late enrollment penalty for Part B, and your CHAMP VA coverage will not start until your Medicare Part B is effective. CHAMP VA does not work at VA medical centers because Medicare is the primary payer. So you need to go to providers that accept and bill Medicare. And then CHAMP VA will pick up in-network copays and in-network coinsurance, but it will not pick up out-of-network copays or coinsurance. So definitely be cognizant of that. Many veterans can get their prescriptions covered by the VA if they pick them up from a VA pharmacy. But this isn't always convenient, right? Which is why it's nice to have a Medicare prescription drug plan when you have VA benefits. This gives you the flexibility to go to a non-VA pharmacy like Kroger, Safeway, Walgreens, and the like if you don't live near a VA pharmacy. TRICARE for Life's beneficiaries can use Express Scripts mail order as long as they don't sign up for other health insurance like a Medicare prescription drug plan. Some people still choose to get a Medicare Advantage plan without prescription drug coverage to get the additional benefits that Advantage plans provide. This Advantage plan pays first, and then TRICARE pays second. CHAMP VA has meds by mail, along with over 66,000 pharmacies in the Optum network if you do not have other prescription drug coverage. If you have Part D with Medicare, then that would be the primary prescription coverage and CHAMP VA would be secondary. If all of this information has got you feeling overwhelmed, reach out for help. We do this day in and day out, and we're here to help you navigate Medicare. And don't forget, annual enrollment for Medicare is October 15th through December 7th. So schedule your free consultation in that window to review plans for 2023. And individual and family open enrollment started November 1st. And I love helping people navigate health insurance. And next up, I'm passing it on to Sandy.
Thank you so much, Jackie. It's great to talk with everyone. So just to kind of give you a little bit of background on myself, I am a VA accredited claims agent, and I have worked in this industry for about 13 years. I've been accredited for 11. My program is actually a nationwide program and federally funded. So it is not based on any particular state. So I do work all over the country and have clients in every state. So here are the award amounts that are available. And I want to start here because it's important to understand exactly what we're trying to achieve. As the other ladies have mentioned, long-term care can be pricey, and having a plan in mind is extremely helpful. So the benefits from the Aid in Attendance program are based on the marital status of the veteran. And these numbers are the numbers that we are projecting for 2023. The VA has not come out and specifically nailed the numbers down, but we do have the percentage. So these are what we're projecting. As an example, a married veteran who needs assistance with ADLs, that's activities of daily living, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute, can receive up to $2,643 tax-free dollars per month for the remainder of their life to help pay for long-term care. If they're a single veteran, it's a little bit less. If they're a surviving spouse of a veteran, then it is $1,433. And there is something called an advance pension. And I get asked literally every day, at least once a day, and sometimes twice, what is this thing, the advance pension? Because it is absolutely not known. So if we have a living veteran who is healthy and does not need care, but their spouse does, they can receive up to $1,750 a month toward helping pay for their spouse's care. So what are some of the qualifiers? And we're going to talk about this more in depth, but a big one is wartime service. These are the wartime dates that are actually established by the President of the United States. You'll notice World War II was December 7th through 1941 through December 31st, 1946. And then we have Korea, Vietnam. Those main bolded dates can be service anywhere in the world. You did not have to see combat. The aid and attendance benefit is not related to a service-connected disability. There is one unique period of time that was just pre-Vietnam War, and that would have been February 28th of 1961 through August 5th of 1964. In that time frame, a person did have to have boots on the ground in Vietnam to qualify for aid and attendance. But the rest of the time frames could be anywhere in the world, and that includes the Persian Gulf conflict, which began August 2nd, 1990, and is continuing to this day. It has not been, the finish of it has not been declared by the president yet. So now we're going to look at just a few very specific details that are important toward getting aid and attendance. First off, 1 day of military service during one of those war times, again, anywhere in the world, did not have to see combat, with the exception of that small period of time where there were boots on the ground in Vietnam required. 90 days of consecutive active duty service, and then anything but dishonorably discharged. So a medical discharge would qualify. And then if it is the surviving spouse, they had to be married to the veteran at the time they passed, not the time they served. So that's probably one of the biggest questions we get asked regarding surviving spouses. Well, what if mom was married to dad, but only after he got out of the military? That's fine. As long as she was married to him until he passed away, we're good to go. There is a stipulation that divorce nullifies the pension, so that's specifically where we have to prove they were married until the veteran's passing. And then you do have to have help with 2 activities of daily living. And we're going to touch base on that in a second. But on our next slide, we're going to look at who can legally assist with the application completion. And I bring this up because in 2018, the VA made some very serious changes to the rules surrounding aid and attendance. And part of the reason why they made these changes is because there were a lot of people out there offering to assist veterans with their application process and never completing it, never seeing it through, and not truly helping them. So one of the requirements to be able to help a person with aid and attendance is that you either be a VA accredited claims agent or a VA accredited attorney. And to become accredited, you do have to pass a test, get background checks, and be approved by the Office of Counsel General of the Veterans Administration. Also, there are veteran service organizations that assist, such as VFWs, the actual VA themselves will assist. These are accredited people as well, but they actually get paid by the VA or their volunteers. So the difference between them and an accredited agent or an attorney is they're paid by the government already. Attorneys and agents are not directly paid by the government. So they do charge a fee for their services. In my office, we offer a free initial consultation. It typically takes anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of the case, the questions that need to be answered, etc. But we walk the applicant through the entire process as a resource and for educational purposes, and then they can decide what they want to do after the call is at the end. The next slide is going to show us, this is actually the VA website, and I just wanted to kind of show you how you can verify that someone is accredited by the VA. I pulled my own accreditation up. You'll see the link there at the bottom of the slide, and I'm happy to send that to anyone who would like to verify. It is illegal to work doing what I do unless you're accredited by the VA. So let's go back to those ADLs. As I mentioned before, there are requirements to get aid and attendance above and beyond the service requirements. And there are 3 areas that the VA is going to review: care need, income, and assets. On the care need, the person or the applicant needs to be, the veteran needs to be 65 years or older. If it's a surviving spouse, they don't have to be 65. But for the veteran, they had to be 65 years or older. And they have to need assistance with 2 activities of daily living. One of the most controversial parts of this is the biggest activity of daily living that most seniors need first and foremost is not on the list, and that's medication management. The VA does not honor that as an activity of daily living that qualifies. Instead, they're looking for help with bathing, dressing, walking, eating, which is actually feeding, food to mouth, toileting, and transferring. And it can be as much as just, it can be a full hands-on care, or it can be just as little as someone saying, did you remember to shower today? I'm gonna wait here in the apartment while you shower in case you need me. It can be that simple. On our next slide, we're going to look at income. The VA does consider income from a variety of sources: Social Security income, Social Security disability, retirement pension, or if you were proactive and purchased a long-term care policy in your 50s and it's paying out now, that is also considered income. In order to qualify for aid and attendance, the applicant has to be spending their entire combined household income on care. So for example, we have a veteran who is a single veteran, and he has $3,500 a month coming in from Social Security and a small retirement pension. He would have to spend $3,500 a month on assisted living, or if he wants to remain in his home, he can do it with in-home care. However, he has to be spending the entire income on just the care if he's in home. So that is where we get into sometimes challenges with in-home care. Spend all of your income on care, you have to have some money in the savings. Excuse me, and we're going to talk about those assets and savings here in just a second. But I did want to touch on a very important point. If the applicant is receiving VA disability, VA will not pay aid and attendance and disability at the same time. Excuse me. Excuse me, I'm getting so dry over here. But what they will do is make you choose. Do you want aid in attendance or the disability benefit? Typically, aid in attendance pays more than disability up to 100%. It's only a veteran that's 100% disabled that would actually benefit from the disability claim. So just touching on what is a service-connected disability so that everyone is clear. As I mentioned, aid in attendance does not require that you have a service-connected disability. But if you do have one, if you have hearing loss from service, if you have lost a limb, if you have PTSD or Agent Orange exposure, which are all claims, you might be getting VA disability. And again, you have to pick which one is better. When we do our consultation, we go over all of that with families and we make sure they understand what, if anything, they're giving up to take aid in attendance and what they're gaining from the aid in attendance benefit. The one nice thing about disability claims is they are not income or asset driven like aid in attendance. So typically, if you have a disability claim, you can still have a great deal in assets and income, and they don't consider those things. It's only with aid in attendance that we have to watch those areas. And so on the next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about assets. What does aid in attendance consider an asset? CD, savings, annuities, investment accounts. The primary residence is excluded from the calculation until you sell it or rent it. And that's a huge thing to point out, because many of my families will go to the VA and be told, oh, well, the primary residence is excluded, and the VA is doing that in good faith because it is. But what they don't tell them is you'll get aid in attendance until you sell the house. And then when you sell the house and earn $400,000 on it, you put yourself over the asset limit and you will lose the benefit. So the challenge with that is there are ways to protect the house legally so that you can get aid in attendance and still maintain the house and eventually sell it, and it won't kick you off the benefit. But those things have to be looked at prior to applying for aid in attendance. So we always recommend you talk with a VA accredited agent or attorney before, if you own a home, before you apply for any benefits, so you have all the facts. What is that asset limit? As you see on the screen, it's $150,536. So that's a fairly reasonable amount of money that is not uncommon. The majority of the people that I work with in their 80s and 90s, that's not an unusual figure to have in the bank, and then they can qualify for aid in attendance once they're spending their income on care. And then lastly, for more information from me, this is my contact information. I do have a specific email for referrals. If you have a referral or if you want to reach out to me, you're welcome to use my email, a direct phone line. I also text on that, and our website for more information. Thank you all, and I pass you off to Alicia.
Wow, that was so great, Sandy. I know that I've been in this industry for 17 years and been working with VA folks, helping seniors get this benefit. And I learned so much from you today, even just our collaborations and communications we've had before. Today was a big learning curve for me. 150,000. I didn't know that was the asset threshold. Great information. Common thread here today. You've got a bunch of guides, right, in front of you. How many people here have worked with a guide before, maybe on a vacation or to show you around a place you were unfamiliar with? Yeah, I think Jackie spoke to this a little bit. She said, what do? They save time and narrow options. I love that. That is so spot on. Guides help answer the questions that we wouldn't have thought to ask. They bring us to all the best local places. They have experiences and stories to share, what not to do, right? How to keep yourself out of sticky situations. They have experience working with different types of people and dynamics. They're knowledgeable in their craft. They assist people to have a better overall experience. What do you think happens when we don't have a guide? Ooh, things can get overwhelming. We don't know what questions to ask. We don't know what to look for. We could get frustrated by all the unknowns. And we could be missing out on resources or options that we just didn't know were available. I think the more difficult the path, the more beneficial it is to have a guide. In this portion of the presentation, I'm going to leave you with some questions, which I like to call thought bombs, some thought-provoking questions. Have you, any of you here, shared your concerns with a loved one? Maybe you had some reservations about them staying at home alone and whether or not they were still safe and getting the care that they needed. Were you met with things like, I don't need help, or I'm not ready to leave my home, or gosh, it's just too expensive. I don't want to give up my independence. This denial of needs is really common with aging older adults. If it's difficult to talk with them now, what do you think is going to be like as their needs grow? Typically, when families are met with responses like these, the conversation gets stalled or the argument is left unresolved. But wait, what if you had a guide? Someone that could help navigate this unfamiliar territory? That's me. Well, I think that's all the people here today. So what happens if you're talking with a loved one and you're met with resistance? What's the worst that could happen from not furthering the conversation? A crisis, right? They're going to shut down. I don't want to talk about it. We walk away from it until what happens? They have a fall, they end up in the hospital, a change of condition happens like a stroke or a heart attack. 60% of the clients that I help and the families that I meet with, they're reaching out after they're in crisis mode. They're in the hospital, their loved one's in the rehab, they've got a few days to figure out a plan, and they're very overwhelmed because they're emotional about the crisis that just happened, and now they've got all this information in front of them they have to sift through. So this is why folks here today in this resource group are so passionate about encouraging people to really prepare themselves before they get into crisis mode. Let's not wait until we're faced with making the decisions to just educate ourselves on what's out there and, what do I need to know? What am I not thinking about? What resources might I have to come across? What do you think is the best thing that could happen from continuing a conversation and before a crisis? Well, I think I just answered that, right? Gaining more education, better understanding of what's offered, understanding what are the different levels of support that exist within those options. Do we even know? I think Jackie talked about the Medicare, Medicaid slide. We can probably go to the next one. Do we even know what the different types of care are? When I meet with clients, we'll ask with, I'll start with questions where we're asking when is assisted living not enough care? How do I know if my loved one needs a nursing home? What's offered in an adult foster care setting? How does it differ from assisted living? What's residential care? How much does all this cost? What's a spend down? What's a PACE program? What happens if the only asset is the home? What happens if your loved one is showing signs of dementia, but there's not a power of attorney in place? What's the difference between home health and home care? What's the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? What's offered and covered under Medicare and Medicaid? Asking all of these questions really helps me to better understand how to be a resource to them, how to connect them with folks like our people here today presenting to you. Approach matters. When the adult children are perceived as trying to parent their parents, it often results in both parties feeling frustrated and unheard. I've met with several folks who are trying to have difficult conversations with their loved ones, but they're telling me they're met with a denial of needs and resistance about leaving the home. Many times using the right approach to navigate these conversations with the loved one was all that was needed to further the discussion. If the senior feels like they're being cornered or told what to do by their children, or if they have any cognitive deficits like dementia, they might want to shut down and not further engage in planning conversations. Families don't know what to do when their approach isn't working, or when the senior is not listening to reason. They get frustrated and give up. When this happens, the family and the seniors are essentially waiting for that next crisis to happen. Let me be your guide. Let me help you get a plan in place so that you're not having to navigate through so much new information in a crisis. There are folks like myself and other speakers within our group here today that can help families to navigate a plan to further the discussions before a crisis. Using the right approach is where we come in. I can help you with an approach that feels collaborative and doesn't leave the senior feeling like their children are telling them what they need to do. I can be your advocate, your emotional support, your cheerleader, your local guide, someone who knows the industry, knows the area, wants to empower you to help you make an informed decision about your loved one's care. If none of this resonates with you today personally, perhaps you may encounter a friend, a coworker who's going through this with their loved ones. It's a great time to introduce a senior living advisor who can step in and help eliminate some of that overwhelming stress that goes along with this journey. Oasis Senior Advisors is licensed by the state to provide this service, which is completely free to the clients, to all people. There's no obligations, no contracts to work with me. Let's not wait for a crisis to keep the conversation going. I'm your local and knowledgeable guide.
Thank you, Alicia. That's great. I think our most important point that we're trying to get across today is to just make sure you have a support team before the crisis hits. Have a financial planner, a tax advisor, a health insurance advisor, legal counsel for estate and elder care, a long-term care and senior living advisor, a senior real estate specialist, and make sure you get help from an accredited claims specialist before you inadvertently lose benefits. Ideally, your team of experts will communicate well together to make sure you're holistically covered well. So thank you again for the opportunity to share this information with you. We will be sending out a resource packet to the email that you used to register for this webinar. If you'd like to set up any free follow-up appointments with us, feel free to reach out. And now we're going to stop the recording and open up the microphones for a Q&A portion of our webinar.